Cardano's price action has seen its fair share of additional volatility since the last technical analysis video that I put out on the channel. We initially were looking for a move down towards the 200 exponential moving average. That is the white line coming through the chart here. But we were not expecting us to breach higher than the previous swing high beforehand. So we were looking to see whether or not 84.66 was going to hold up as our resistance and then move down to the 200 EMA. Instead, we breached this level, taking us up higher to a swing high here on Monday, 1300 hours UTC of 86.43 cents. And then we started to move down towards the 200 exponential moving average. A very interesting kind of pattern. So I thought it would be good today to kind of go through the technical analysis, share my thoughts and opinions as to where I think the price action is heading next. So as I get into it, smash the like button, subscribe if you're new. Let's talk Cardano then. So we were looking at this as a wave 5 high, and I still think that is the case, but with an additional move to the downside, also ending diagonal here. So let me go ahead and draw in what I think has unfolded since. Okay, I'm just going to go ahead and draw in the fib levels so you guys can see what I'm looking at. We'll move that over. So here we have the 1.618. And so where I think I went wrong was that I was looking down here and I should have been looking internally. We have the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 like so. And then we have, actually it's not even like that, sorry. It's there, that's your 5th. This is your 4, that's your wave 3 hitting that 1.618. And then we have a wave 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and now we're in the breakdown. Okay, whereas before I had that slightly higher at the swing high. So now if we kind of take a reflection on this, if I zoom out actually, because this actually goes a little bit further above and beyond kind of your typical zigzag pattern. So let me go ahead and draw this in and show you what this looks like. As you can kind of see just here, we've pierced 1.236. Normally zigzag patterns stay between 1 and 1.236. They don't normally exceed it. When they do exceed, you then start thinking about W, X, Y, X, and Z patterns rather than A, B, C patterns. And of course, our 1.618 up here for the impulsive move does come in at 92.83 cents. So we kind of are going to be looking for a continued push to the upside, in my opinion. Okay. Now, is it possible that, again, I have another missed count going on and we're just going to be pushing out for 92.83? It's possible. And I can't quite see at this point in time what that structure is going to look like to get us out to 92.83 cents. It's possible that maybe there's some other overextension that I cannot see at this stage going on. So it's going to be really interesting to see how that kind of plays out over the next week or so. Let's go ahead and take a look at this then on a slightly zoomed in view. Okay, because at the moment we've moved down in a pretty typical 3-wave pattern, then bounced up. So there's nothing unusual happening at the moment other than the fact that it's not as deep as you would normally expect. You can see down here it's come down to the 0.618 and then bounced. And it obviously breached higher than the previous swing high, bounce, I guess. They kept bouncing at 82.47 cents. And so we've got a good move up. It's kind of coming down, finding support on the 50 EMA, 50 SMA. That's the yellow and blue lines coming through the charts here. And we are actually in a pretty good position for Cardano to continue moving upwards. So all eyes are going to be on the swing high of 86.43 cents. If we break above it, then obviously continued move, looking good, and all the bears are going to be targeting down here at 77.16 cents for trying to break that down. Okay, now the support on the 50 EMA, 50 SMA, and the 200 EMA is putting us in a more bullish outlook, but there's a lot of overlapping price action here, right? So we need to be aware that this isn't the strongest technical setup that we have going on, but it is quite possible still to break on out if momentum and kind of, I guess, the sentiment in the space continues to do well. Of course, Bitcoin leading the way, and as I say, all boats rise with a rising tide. So as we kind of think about this, it's looking pretty reasonable for ADA here on this 1 hour time frame. Let's go ahead and bring up our stochastics, right? So a stochastic RSI is correcting down quite nicely. Still possible for us to drop down lower, so we can't rule out, you know, a complete shakeout of the market. before we continue the move to the upside, but it's actually a reasonable position. It's lower than 50, but not oversold, so we can still see a bit more of a decline in the market, so just be a little bit wary of that. The relative strength index is above 50. It's bounced and is looking pretty strong. So this is a longer term view. It's not as sensitive to price action, and we have a pretty decent trend upwards here on the 1 hour time frame. From the MACD histogram, growth here, whilst actually having a lower high. This is bullish divergence, right? So we have lower highs on the price action, but we have higher highs on the histogram. This is a great setup. So it does look like we are to find support, and we're going to continue this run higher. And basically this bullish divergence is a great setup for further appreciation on the price action. So it's looking likely that Cardano ADA is going to continue this run a little bit higher, but I can't rule out another shakeout, maybe back down towards kind of 79.8 cents, something to that effect, just to grab some of the additional liquidity before rallying, okay? But outside of that, it's looking pretty good in my opinion here. If we roll this to a 4 hour time frame, you can see that we've still got plenty of upward momentum available to us on the stochastic RSI. A little bit of a negative cross at the minute, but it still looks like it's got plenty of momentum for growth, so we're not going to be too concerned there. On the RSI, again above 50, there was some bearish divergence as we kind of hit that higher point, but now things are starting to look okay. MACD histogram is also showing us, some very interesting kind of things going on here. Nothing to note from a divergence perspective, but this could turn positive pretty quickly. So ADA's looking good. I'm not concerned over the things I'm seeing here on the 4 hour time frame either. Okay, so roll this up into a daily time frame then. So on the daily time frame, we had the breakout of the downward trend line, and we are still rallying and breaking higher than the previous highs that we had. And the only concern that I have is the kind of setup at the moment. It doesn't look like anything more than a 3-wave pattern, but that's actually kind of in line with our expectations over the entire kind of daily time frame of what we've seen when it comes to Cardano's ADA, which is that there's a lot of corrective patterns that are kind of taking the formations of diagonal trend-based structures. So as we kind of zoom out, we kind of get really big bullish vibes from Cardano's price action, yet when we zoom in, all of the kind of smaller price action is kind of what retail investors hate the most, which is just extreme volatility in both directions. And well, I think that's pretty much going to be the story here. I think we're going to see that a lot of that continue until we kind of get clearer, I guess, signals from the bigger macroeconomic climate, as you say. So as we kind of reflect on all of this, it's looking pretty good in my opinion. Good, strong moves. But again, we can't rule out those bearish ones either just yet, not until we kind of reclaim a lot of those previous highs that we had. So it's an interesting one. Structure kind of still supports continued growth a little bit more, but I do see this one looking for a correction in the near future. But of course, this being the daily time frame, we could be weeks or months out from that. Now, if we take a look at our stochastic RSI, we're not oversold, but we are really high. So we've come down from the oversold, positive cross potentially on the horizon. We might come back up into this overbought area as we continue to run up a little bit before actually having another correction. So on the daily time frame, not too bad. Relative strength index is, of course, above the 50 level, bullish territory, still looking for progression to the upside. Nothing there to kind of be overly too concerned with, other than the fact that it is high, and we should be expecting a correction in the coming weeks. The MACD histogram. Here, we actually do see some bullish divergences, but they are kind of really minor. I don't think they're actually anything to kind of take note of, because it needs to be more kind of obvious, and we don't really see any of that at the moment. So, we obviously did have the weakness within the selling side, which we can very clearly see here, and we do have the kind of the weakness within the buying side, as you can kind of see here, but it isn't as anywhere, or at least anywhere near as pronounced as you had with the selling side. So we're not overly too concerned about it. The accumulation distribution is still sat very, very high compared to where it was in 2024. So again, you can see most recently during May so far, more accumulation has been happening when it comes to Cardano. And so yeah, everything's looking pretty good. If we zoom out of that, we can take stock of this bigger macro situation. We can see here that it is a three-wave move to the upside. Although I could be wrong about that, it can be nested in and we just can't see it just yet. So we could be looking for those bigger trend-based movements. But as it sits right now, it's very corrective. And what I mean by that is it's short-term movements, these three-wave patterns as short-term movements. Even if they take months on those macro timeframes, they're still communicated and documented as short-term because they're not trend-based movements. And we are still looking for some of these really good highs anyway. So, $3.12 to 477 is on the conservative side. And then we have the kind of 527 to 1291 being on the kind of more medium side. So Cardano is still looking very, very good for this bullish market. I know it's obviously an emotional roller coaster because it doesn't just happen overnight. It's not instantaneous or anything like that. But the progression is there, and we can see some pretty clean targets for new all-time highs when it comes to Cardano. It's just a case of it's going to take months to get there, and it's going to be an emotional roller coaster for retail investors who just simply are not patient enough. But if you do have patience and you can exercise patience within this space, it usually pays dividends in my humble opinion. But of course, guys, it's going to wrap up today's video. If you found it useful and informative, smash the like button, subscribe if you're new, and I'll catch you in the next one.